Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. You know who it is. And unless you've been sleeping under a rock for the past few months, you know that I've been hosting a new call-in talk show on NTS called Call Me Maybe. You can listen to past episodes of the show via the link down below in the D-Box. And what can I say? It's been a ride.
Hello there, Tony. It's McCa.
It's who?
And he turns on Juice World. It's 2024, man.
We've debated our favorite albums on the show.
I just wanted to chat about my favorite album of the year by Shirley Bassey. Have you heard of her?
No, I haven't. I'm going to write down that name right now. Shirley. Talked the most overrated and underrated tracks ever.
As a fellow Brat summer enthusiast myself,
okay,
I don't think it was a 10 out of 10.
The songs are boring. They're like the same thing for like 6 minutes, maybe.
And in this month's episode, we specifically touch down on obscure artists. We're actually about to watch the best clips from that episode right here, right now. So let's do it. Hello?
I'm here.
Is this Red Hood?
Yeah, it's me. Yeah.
What is your business calling today, Red Hood? What is going on?
Well, I actually want to talk about today's topic, that obscure artists.
Okay, yeah. What's an obscure artist or two that you feel like I and everybody should be listening to that we need to be aware of?
You are familiar with him, actually. It's YMS, his music persona and unkindness.
Okay.
His album 10 Years actually it was solid. I know that you don't have time to, review your YouTuber friends' work. I know that you kind of have a code for that, and I respect for that. But
right.
I think everyone should check out YMS's album 10 Years because it's from beginning to finish. It's masterpiece. I'm not kidding. Like all of the arrangements. The vocals, the background instruments. I think you already heard it with the horns and that piano work. That just piano work. Especially the last song, Acceptance. Just at the end of this song, I just stared to the wall for straight 10 minutes.
Well, who our friend here, Red Hood, is referring to as YMS or Your Movie Sucks, or Adam, who is a fellow YouTuber and actually a very talented and accomplished songwriter. As somebody who's actually had a song of theirs that they've written appear on a Blondie album. But I wanted to also ask this in light of this question. In your opinion, what do you feel like even qualifies as obscure music anymore? Because I remember back in the day when I was like coming up pre-internet, getting into music, like music that was legitimately obscure, you actually had to put in quite a bit of effort and legwork in order to sort of like get a grasp of it, get your hands on it, even find out that it existed. And these days, everything is sort of like just kind of at the click of a button and just at your fingertips, and you're not having to necessarily sort of do the digging that you might have at one time in order to find out about something that's like truly obscure. So, as a music fan yourself that, is obviously listening to some artists that might not be as popular as others, what do you even feel like qualifies as obscure music for you right now?
If you ask me for that question back in high school, I will give you that stereotypical answer that, that one of those Swedish black metal bands that only has 99 followers type of answer. But
sure.
As the time passed, I think when I think of some kind of obscure artist, it's me that actually who hasn't discovered yet, but actually others are pretty much aware of that artist. So like you said, it's actually very easy to reach now.
Can you hear me?
Daniel, I can hear you. You want to talk about Latincore?
Yeah, I want to talk about Latincore. Are you familiar with the thing?
I'm really not. The name is sort of like making me want to take a few different guesses. This could either be metalcore music from Latin America, or it could be an electronic style of music that sort of, maybe embraces.
Ding, ding, ding.
There you go. Are we talking about some high BPMs here as well? Are the BPMs going crazy?
It is varied. I wouldn't say that it's all crazy BPMs. I was actually thinking about this question and about this genre, like Latincore, which is like the label, Global North media outlets like, Bandcamp and Resident Advisor and all of those, I don't know, like gatekeepers from some sort of electronic music culture are calling this sort of genre. And this sort of genre is hugely based off of musical imprints of classic Latin American music. So it's really weird because at the same time it's like, breaks, like grime, like UK bass, but I don't know, like indigenous, like traditional beat patterns and such. I'm not sure if you're quite familiarized with.
No, you're educating me right now. I have a lot of questions. The breaks, when we're talking breaks, are we talking like, classic electronic music and dance music breaks? Are we talking like the Amen break or something like that? Or are we like, or are you like pulling breaks from traditional Latin music and then sort of, making different drum breaks out of that are going into a different style of electronic music?
It is classical, historically Anglophone breaks, like jungle, drum and bass.
Sure.
But like mixed with like reggaeton.
Okay.
Like jungle tongue. It's called jungle tongue.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know, it's like that meme where there's like two dudes and one has this parenthesis with a whole bunch of genres and the other one says like virgin music.
Okay.
Goes into that route.
Okay.
There's also like, I actually like a month ago, one of the labels which whom I work with were able to publish Supporter Radio Mix on NTS.
Oh, okay. What's the name? What's the name of the label?
It's called Muerte a la Miseria in Spanish, which translates onto death to the misery.
Okay.
And also I will recommend like CTM, C as in cat, T as in Tom, M as in Mary, Cumbia Tu Mente, another great label from this country, which has edited a bunch of people like from China and stuff. I don't know, from France. It's like a huge community because I think it's like pretty internet based, but it has gotten to a point where, I don't know, as I just told you, there are reviews from Resident Advisor talking about the new wave of up-and-coming Latin American music. Like, for example, this whole thing that this dude which works with Arca, DJ Baba. Are you familiar with?
Yeah. He also had a beat on JPEG Mafia's latest LP, and a lot of those Brazilian funk records are crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this dude is from Venezuela, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's funny that a lot of people are sort of categorizing it that way.
Yeah, like Mandelao, like this whole like genre of funk music is also pretty crazy. There's this dude called Koh, K-O-H, which is literally like trying to put a musical output or effort related to magical practices. So all of his thing is like pretty dancey and 160 BPM above. But you can hear like the Brazilian thing. He's from Joinsville, some place in Brazil. It's pretty far away from me also. But well, there is this movement and there is this thing that got me back to the starting point. Most of this music is quite what, I don't know, Westerners tend to say, quote unquote, avant-garde. But it's really a rehash of a rehash of a rehash, the vaporwave formula or something like it. But it works. It works because it's also functional to the reality, the scarce reality of places like the one I live with. For example, I live at a place where luckily is not happening at my household, but we don't have enough running water or electricity. So there are being electrical cutoffs of almost 10 hours a day. And that's the way we're living and working. And that's the way I'm actually speaking with you at the moment through the internet. So it's like a good musical contrast and output for things which are usually Western-based and dominant by global North countries, which is like electronic music.
Well, conditions like that you're talking about, how do you feel like that manifests in the music itself?
Personally, I couldn't care less. It's really complicated because I think that on the broader spectrum of things, I mean, one of the least interesting or important things happening, for example, here in the country where I live at and from where I'm from, it's fucking Latincore. You know what I mean? It's like, that's like quote unquote white people shit.
Right.
Or seeing it in a way.
Okay,
Because those are concerns for people which have the time and availability to think about musical genres. But it does impact our reality because there are people, I mean, I have friends which are producers and have been able to tour the US and recently Mexico or stuff like that, mostly because of doing this thing online. And it doesn't work for them as much here locally as it does overseas.
So you're saying this is a term that's being sort of applied sort of like in a marketing kind of way? In
Totally. He's
order
like
to
a
sort of make
tokenized.
in order to sort of make it palatable for people who are like completely outside of that context and aren't necessarily seeing the, you know, nuances between what's going on in the Brazilian scene, the Ecuadorian scene, and the Venezuelan scene, and so on and so forth.
Totally. I mean, the thing is that, don't get me wrong, I think that nonetheless, it is fucking sick. It's like an amazing genre. It does like a pretty left field approach to what partying means. And you go to a party of this sort of music and you hear the classics, the things that you listened when you had like 6 years old, sleeping in 2 chairs, listening to cumbia until 4 a.m. with your drunk parents, you know, the classic third world country stuff.
Thank you for calling in, because you've just hit us with a lot of information and recommendations here. And again, I appreciate you sort of like, again, kind of like giving us a microscope and kind of drilling down a bit more and giving us some of those like, you know, details and some of the differences in sort of like this umbrella term that may be kind of catching on right now.
Holy shit, that was incredible.
Yeah, he really gave us a rundown. It's Call Me Maybe. It's Anthony Fantano. It's the live NTS call-in show. We're chopping it up about all things music. We were just talking about Latincore. Sean, do we have another caller sort of lined up?
Yeah, we've got Daniela here from LA.
Danielle, are you there?
Hey, Anthony.
Hey, what's going on?
Good. How are you? I'm a huge fan.
I appreciate that. You have an obscure recommendation for me?
Yes. I've been really digging some 60s music, and among the most obscure that I've come across is the Millennium, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
The Millennium?
Yes.
I have not heard of this band. They're a 60s band. Their name is The Millennium. How did you find out about this band? What is their origin story?
So really, I just randomly came across them through like the Spotify algorithm. You know, sometimes they're really good. So I just came across the band, you know, listening to some Beach Boys and, you know, the Beatles and stuff. And then, you know, suddenly the song comes up in my shuffle, and I'm just like blown away about how like amazing it is, and how like, in my opinion, it was just far ahead of its time.
And far ahead of its time in what way? Did it, you know, you're talking about sort of like listening to Beatles and Beach Boys and did it actually like feel in line with that sort of era of music, or did it sound like something from the future?
I mean, absolutely. I would say they're kind of in par or in line with like their contemporaries, but I do think that it's kind of, you know, iconic enough that it could withstand really the test of time. I think production wise, it's really, you know, again, on par with like Brian Wilson's level of work. Really like lush sounding production. The lyrics are just there as well. I think all around, it's a really great band. They've only been around for like a year, according to their Wikipedia page. So it's kind of just one of those, you know, one and done type thing.
So, so they only had like the one album. What is the album?
Yeah. Begin, just released, I believe, in '68. So it was kind of, you know, among some of the greatest work put out at that time in that era. I really recommend 5 a.m. I think 5 a.m. is stellar. It's really just amazing. And I'm surprised it's like not really spoken a lot about, you know, in terms of like, I mean, of course it's a niche band, but I think this has a lot of potential really. And I think it's popular enough to run around in some like niche internet circles, I think. Okay.
Well, again, the Millennium, 5 a.m. Thank you for the recommendation and for coming through with an obscure hit for us.
Of course, my pleasure.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you, you too.
We have Jess. Jess is coming through. Jess, are you there?
Hello, hi.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Good.
How are you? I'm good. What's going on? What's on your mind?
Well, we were talking about obscure artists.
Yes.
Let's talk about Coworker music.
I've got. Yeah, we can go multiple directions here. Do you have some obscure Coworker music?
I have some obscure Coworker music. Well, this is an artist that was recommended to me by a coworker.
Okay.
I was studying over in a different state. I'm from Rochester, New York, and I was missing my hometown dearly. And my coworker recommended me an artist local to Rochester that I had never heard of.
Okay.
Kitchen.
Called what?
Kitchen is the name.
Just Kitchen.
Yes. Just Kitchen.
And where can people find Kitchen? What is the album, or what is the track to listen to? What does it sound like?
Well, it's kind of like bedroom pop, indie folk, that kind of vibe. Not really doing much inventive, I would say. But it actually, the reason why I wanted to bring it up, I would personally recommend either the newest album, Breath Too Long, or the previous band that this guy James Keegan was in, the Loners, had an album in the slacker rock slowcore area that was really good.
Okay.
The reason why I want to bring this up though is it was specifically resonating for me when I was in LA because it reminded me so much of the of my hometown, and I kind of wanted to ask you because this got me thinking that I feel like I mean, you talk about a lot of the time how streaming services like Spotify, how they've had a often negative impact on how we talk about music, and something I've been kind of realizing is that, especially with kind of the decline of radio, we don't get local music specifically recommended to users enough, and I almost feel like I'm out of touch with my local community over in Rochester, and I was wondering your thoughts on that, if that's an issue you also recognize, and how you think would be best to solve that.
No, it's most definitely a thing. I think on like sort of all levels of the internet, I feel like a lot of algorithms have kind of condensed things down in a way where it kind of separates you off from what's happening immediately around you. And you know, while I do think that there are positives to that in terms of it, like globalizing or nationalizing certain conversations that I feel like need to be had politically and socially, and also sort of I feel like it makes people more well aware, or can make people more well aware in some instances of you know, I would say like injustices that are going on in global politics and that sort of thing. Like, you know, what to me personally, as somebody who's currently watching what's going on in the Middle East right now, you know, this is like all an extension of a lot of the very terrible destabilizing policies that the West has had toward the Middle East that have been ramping up since like the 2000s. You know, and the war on terror and so on and so forth. A lot of the rhetoric around what's being sort of like pushed now is sort of like a part of that, you know, ongoing sort of like a push there, in my view, as somebody who's been paying attention to those politics like for all of this time. And it sort of seems like there's more conversation around these issues now than there ever has been. But in a way, and I don't know what the solution is, there probably is one, but I feel like the unfortunate downside of that is that there's a lot less emphasis currently on like local politics and local art and local connections where, you know, people arguably could potentially have the most impact, you know, or the most sway in terms of like what's immediately going on around them.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So I guess instead of bringing this kind of smaller artist and recommending it to everyone, although I would love if everyone checked out Kitchen. Yeah. I guess I would say I would want everyone listening to maybe, you know, check out some of the local music being made in your community, because it might really resonate with you as someone who probably also grew up in that community and participates in that community.
You know, I think the answer to this, honestly, is like people need to go back to sort of like a bit of a DIY ethos. You know, the thing is, if people want awareness and want community around the things that are happening immediately around them, people need to start zines. People need to start social media accounts that are dedicated to covering and talking about sort of micro and obscure and niche things that are happening immediately around them. And that ultimately will end up creating, you know, that awareness and that community, because people will seek that sort of stuff out, you know?
Yeah.
You know, again, in order for there to be community, people have to voluntarily sort of come together. You know, the internet isn't going to create it for you. You know, you've got to kind of like make it for yourself ultimately. And, you know, it's sort of you know, build it and they will come kind of thing.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right. Well, thank you for calling up, Jess. And I appreciate your time and your perspective.
All right. Well, thank you for talking to me. Have a good day.
Have a good one. It's Call Me Maybe, the live music call-in show where I chop it up with you about all things music, whatever it is you guys want to talk about. I believe our next caller is named Bren Dizzle. Yes. This is Bren Dizzle Sunshine. I want to make sure that I'm not.
What's up, Mr. Fantana? Thank you for having me.
I want to make sure I'm not talking to an imposter. I want to make sure that I'm talking to the Bren
There's
Dizzle
not a
Sunshine.
single imposter among us.
I don't know about that. I'm pretty sure there's like maybe one Bren Dizzle Sunshine and then 4 or 5 or 6 other guys who wish they were Bren Dizzle Sunshine. I want to make sure I'm talking to the Bren Dizzle Sunshine.
On God. This is the Bren Dizzle Sunshine. I'm not sussing you out.
Okay, I'll suspend disbelief just because we're live on the radio. What is it that you want to talk about?
Well, personally and objectively, we have been taking a lot of big W's recently with experimental music.
Okay.
You got the new Clarity record.
Okay, yeah, that's fairly experimental as far as pop music goes. Yeah, that's true. What else?
How about the Godspeed You Black Emperor?
I was just listening to that. I mean, for the most part, it does sound like kind of your usual Godspeed fare, but it's still a beautiful record.
It is gorgeous, and it is a bit, it's a lot of the same for Godspeed, but at the same time, it is a little, it still brings something new, I think. I've only heard it once. I don't remember it. It's
done very well, and I can't quite remember the title, but the 4th track on there, I believe, is it's actually the 5th track. Is actually immensely heavy, and has like some pretty powerful moments on it, especially with like the rattling, metallic, clanging percussion in the background. It sounds like a siren's going off, so some kind of like warning bell.
Yeah,
it's quite something.
It really is. Also, I hope you don't mind, during the duration of this conversation, I will be munching on some dirty Steve-O's pizza.
Okay. So we're taking some W's with experimental music. Is there anything else that you have going on right now that you want to say? You're just feeling the experimental music lately. Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
This is going to be an exciting one. Jimmy from Ontario, who wants to explain to us what Coworker music is.
Finally, an answer to the age-old question. Jimmy is coming through. Jimbo, is that you?
Hello, this is me. This is Jimbo.
Jimbo,
this is Anthony.
It is Anthony. What the hell is Coworker music?
Generally, it's like when somebody comes in, they say like, "Oh yeah, man, I listen to everything. I listen to, like I love rap. I love Beethoven. I love Spice Girls." And then generally, like when you say that you like everything, you kind of don't really like anything. Like you're kind of like devoid of taste. If you know what I'm saying. I don't know if you've had somebody come to you with this sort of attitude before.
Like not in a very long time, but I am familiar with like kind of this mode of explaining your music taste.
Like I do often, like I'll have coworkers that do listen to music that I like, and we'll align in that way. But there's always this guy, like every couple of years or so, this guy shows up, and he's just the most eclectic guy I've ever met. And you can't go, or I'll say like, I'll try to quiz a new coworker. Like if we get to listen to our own tunes at work, I'll say, "Hey man, what do you want to hear?" And he'll say like, "Oh yeah, like whatever you want to hear, that's fine." For me, that's an L. Like that's a fail. Like if I'm trying to, sort of vet you for what you're into, and then you just tell me to put on whatever I like, then we're not really getting anywhere necessarily.
Ooh, that's a damning admission there. You're silently judging. You're putting someone on the spot.
Oh,
what do you like? What do you want to listen to? And if you turn down the aux opportunity, you're like, I don't know if I could trust you.
It's just not dynamic. It's not exciting. Like you're just letting me take the wheel, and I know what it's like to have the wheel. I want to see how you drive.
Right. Exactly.
Also, I just want to mention, what are they called? Caravan Palace. That's what I've had to listen to lately. Had to suffer through lately. Okay. Not that like I don't know if you're familiar with Electro Swing or
Electro Swing
just makes you feel like you're stuck in a game of Cuphead.
Electro Swing and listen, I fuck heavily with the Cuphead soundtrack. I love the
Cuphead soundtrack.
I will say that.
The derivatives of I'm not necessarily for.
Electro Swing is handily in like my bottom 5 genres of all time. Like Electro Swing is most definitely like in the bottom 5. And there's some people, whenever I say that, people are just like, I can't believe it. What about Caravan Palace? And it's like, okay, I mean, you did like pick the least corny of maybe all the electro swing out there, but like the vast majority of it though is basically like getting a root canal at the fucking dentist.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, and especially if you're working. I know that you used to work at a pizza shop, and I mean, if you're working in a kitchen or a similar environment. And then,
Thank God I never knew anybody who I used to work with that listened to electro swing, so I never had to be subjected to electro swing in the work environment.
I mean, I have a feeling that you might have had a little more influence on what was going on in the aux chord at the time, but
maybe a little bit.
Like, I can't help but feel that you wouldn't suffer that kind of foolery.
But yeah, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry that you ever had to deal with electro swing as coworker music. I apologize for that. I apologize on behalf of, I don't know, I don't represent the electro swing community at all in any way outside of being white. But you know, I'm very sorry that happened to you.
It still happens sometimes. Now I'm a little more. I'm reserved. I'm polite. I don't have as much control of the aux chord as I used to, so I kind of just let them do their thing and then try to find some work to do somewhere else, I guess.
That's very benevolent of you.
Unrelated to the coworker thing, I just wanted to mention that it's my birthday, and I saw that you had a show coming up on my birthday, and I'm making a big point to call you on. This is a big birthday gift for me to get to speak to you. This is a big deal for me.
Happy friggin' birthday. How old are you?
Thanks, man. I'm 38 years old today.
Damn, old man.
Yeah. I know you're a bit of an unk as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of an unk too. All right, have a good one, man. Thank you for calling.
I'm growing into it quite well.
Thank you for calling in, unk.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, cool. God, electro swing. You know, the thing that bugs me almost the most about it is like, I feel like a lot of the aesthetics of the electronic music sort of underlying a lot of the sort of like swing samples is just very tacky and very bad and very generic.
Oh yeah, it's bad up and down. There's nothing really redeemable. I didn't think real people actually listened to it, but I guess that's what coworker music is, right?
Like I feel like if you took somebody like Square Pusher and you like kind of put a gun to his head and you like gave him a bunch of swing samples and you're like, okay, listen, put this on some real good tasty breaks. Like he would do it against his will, but like he would do it. He'd make it a little more listenable, but
it could work. It could work.
It could possibly work. But
there's some house music in the 90s, like Chicago house stuff that draws on some swing type samples. It's like, it's not my favorite stuff, but it's not bad.
Yeah. All right, geez. It's Call Me Maybe. Is this Quentin from Indiana?
That is true. Yeah.
Okay, Quentin. What's going on? What's on your mind?
Underrated or overlooked albums.
Overlooked albums.
Coworker music. I don't think anyone's explained it fully well yet.
Is it just music your coworkers are exposing you to, or is it something deeper than that?
No, it's way deeper. That's wrong.
It's way
deeper.
You're
working at Subway. You get in your coworker's car because you're ready to leave the shift, and he turns on Juice WRLD. It's 2024, man. Like that's what coworker music is.
Oh no.
He turns on X. This isn't 2018 anymore, man. We've got to wrap it up.
Oh no. So coworker music can be a lot of things, but it has to be kind of dated.
It's dated, but it's popular. That's what it is.
Oh, okay. It's dated but popular. Okay, and maybe it's like a bit of an Arrested Development thing, because I feel like there is a certain age limit to where you should be listening to X. Like I feel like within a certain age range, like the emotional itch it's scratching is fine. It's understandable. You know, I mean, we've all been sort of like teenagers who are in our feels, but like once you're like 32, maybe not so much. Maybe not as much. So it's dated. 100%. It's dated. It's popular. What else do you feel like is a defining characteristic of coworker music?
It seems like it's just kind of annoying because they're always going to play it in their car, or they have a speaker in the back, so you always got to listen to it.
Okay.
Either one.
Okay. And I've been seeing a lot of people also characterizing coworker music as like a lot of butt rock, like a lot of Nickelback and Creed and stuff like that. Does that also qualify?
That, and then you have stuff like Lizzo, I would consider in that circle of coworker music.
Okay. So
there's different genres of
coworker music. Musically, Lizzo's past her prime too, you're saying?
100%. You know how many times I had to hear her songs at Subway? I'm so over it. I don't want to ever work there again.
You know, I get so little exposure to Subway Coworker music because you guys don't have no vegetarian, like good vegetarian options.
Oh yeah, the veggie sub sucks.
Yeah,
it's
no,
terrible.
it's trash. It's garbage. Like what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I don't blame you.
All
Best
right.
thing got is a salad, I guess.
Well, thank you for coming on and more thoroughly kind of giving us, I think, a very, very prime definition of Coworker music, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Have a good one. All right. Well, I think that's as good of an explanation we're probably going to get of Coworker music.
We got to the bottom of it.
Yeah, I think we really got to the bottom of it. It's got to be popular. It's got to be dated. There's got to be an element of like, you're still listening to this?
Yeah.
This is still going on now. Okay, there's the clips. You saw them. Thank you for sticking around. This has been Anthony Fantano. And remember, you can listen back to all of those old Call Me Maybe episodes on NTS via the link down below. I'm looking forward to listening back. You should too. Drop some of your favorite moments from the episodes in the comments down below. Personally, some of mine are when that one dude called in to talk about Paul McCartney.
Without Paul, Ringo Starr's still picking his nose.
And how Wings might potentially be hypothetically better than the Beatles, maybe. If they were better than the Beatles, what would they be better at?
Letting Paul do what he wanted to do.
Also, another great moment where we had a conversation about the nuances and the finer details within the Latincore scene on the internet these days.
So quote unquote white people shit.
But that is pretty much it for now. Again, we appreciate you watching and listening. This has been Anthony Fantano for NTS and Call Me Maybe. Until next time, goodbye forever.